sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamritam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishware Rishabhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're reading from the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Dhyana Yoga, text number 3. Arurukshor Muniya Yogam
Arurukshor Yogam.
Arurukshor Muniya Yogam
Arurukshor Yogam.
Arma Karanam Uchate
Karma Karana Putte.
Karudasya Tasyaiva
Yoga
Shama Karanam Uchate
Samakarana Chute.
Arukshor Muniya Yogam
Arurukshor Yogam.
Karma Karanam Uchate
Karma Karana Chute.
Yogarudasya Tasyaiva
Yoga
Shama Karanam Uchate
Samakarana Chute.
Arurukshor Muniya Yogam
Arurukshor Yogam.
Karma Karanam Uchate
Karma Karana Chute.
Yogarudasya Tasyaiva
Yoga Siddha
Shama Karanam Uchate
Samakarana Chute.
Arurukshor Manor Yogam
Arurukshor Yogam.
Karma Karanam Uchate
Karma Karanam
Uchate.
Yogarudhasya Tasyaiva
Yoga
Karma Karanam Uchate
Sama Karanam Uchate
Arurukshor Munir Yogam
Arurukshor Muniya Yogam
Karma Karanam Uchyate
Karma Karanam Uchate
Yogarudhasya Tasyaiva
Arudasya Tasyaiva
Shama Karanam Uchyate.
Shama Karanam Uchate. Anyone else?
Arurukshor Munir Yogam
Arurukshor Muniya Yogam
Karma Karanam Uchyate
Karma Karanam Uchate
Yoga Rudhasya Tasyaiva
Yogarudasya Tasyaiva
Shama Karanam Uchyate.
Shama Karanam Uchate. Arurukshor, who has just begun yoga. Mune, of the sage. Yogam. There's only one person I hear responding. The Eightfold Yoga System.
The Eightfold Yoga System.
Karma. Work. Karanam.
The
means.
means.
Uchate.
Uchate.
Is said to be.
is said to be
yoga,
yoga,
eightfold,
eightfold.
yoga arudasya,
yoga arudasya,
Yogarudasya.
of one who has attained,
of one who has attained,
Attained.
tasya,
tasya,
his,
his,
Is
eva,
eva,
Eva.
certainly,
certainly,
shamaha,
shama,
Shama.
cessation of all material activities,
cessation of all material activities,
karanam,
Karana.
karanam,
the means,
the
The main.
means,
uchate,
uchyate,
is said to be.
Is
is
said
said
to
to
be.
be.
Translation: for one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. So sometimes we explain that yoga, the word yoke, like you yoke, not the yolk of an egg, but you yoke an oxen to a plow. So you connect them. So this is yoga. The word yoke comes from yoga, linking up. So you link up the ox to the plow. So you link up oneself with God. That's what yoga actually means. Process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. Even that linking, if you don't think about in the Bible, I don't know if it's in the New Testament where I believe Jesus says that I and my Father are one. Now, the Christians somehow think that Jesus is God. He is the Father. Now, if a normal person, if I said, or anyone said, me and my Father are one, no one in their right mind would think I'm my Father. But you think they're one in purpose. So this is the real linking up. The real linking up with God is being one with God in purpose. You're two separate individuals, but you're one in purpose. Whatever Krishna's purpose is, or Krishna's desires are, that becomes your desires. So in that sense, there's this oneness. Prabhupada even gives the example of this oneness, just like he says, if a woman submits to her husband, there's a feeling of oneness, although they're two separate individuals. So similarly, there's this oneness with God is there when we link up with God through this process of yoga. And this oneness isn't where you're one homogeneously with God. You're two separate individuals, but there's a feeling of oneness. So this yoga is coming to that platform, linking up with the desires of God, one becoming one with God in purpose. So it may be compared, this is the yoga system, may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. So this topmost spiritual realization, we all know, at least everybody here that I see knows, that the topmost realization is that I am a tiny little infinitesimal part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as a part of Krishna, I meant to serve Krishna. So this is the highest understanding. But one doesn't immediately come to that understanding when one practices yoga. There are different stages, although one can come immediately to that understanding and avoid all these different stages. He doesn't have to go through these different stages. So it may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization, this yoga process. This ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to the perfect self-realization of pure spiritual life. So you might say, I mean, when an analogy is given like this, Srila Prabhupada's given an analogy, he's also explained a little bit about analogies, is a good analogy has a lot of things in common, where sometimes there's the impersonalists give the analogy of a water pot, that when a water pot is full, it doesn't make sound. And when it's empty, it makes sounds. And they're trying to say that when someone realizes the absolute truth, then there's no more talking. Whereas Srila Prabhupada says that when you realize the absolute truth, then talking just begins. So he says that an analogy, what does a human being have in common with a water pot? It's not a good analogy. There's nothing in common. So the more things that are in common, the more you can use that example and that analogy to get you to understand something else. So here, this analogy of the ladder is there. But one thing a little different with a ladder is you don't just start on the top step, but in Krishna consciousness, you can start with Bhakti Yoga. You can learn about Bhakti Yoga and start. And even though you're learning about Bhakti Yoga and starting, it doesn't mean that in previous lives you haven't done all these other types of yoga. But you're starting off in this life right at that highest ring. So you can't really start off with a ladder like that unless you're on a higher platform, and then you can just walk up to that higher ring of the ladder. So the ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to the perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. According to various elevations, different parts of the ladder are known by different names. But all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into three parts, namely Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of the ladder is called Yoga Rurukshu stage, and the highest rung is called Yoga Ruda. So these are just basically the highest and lowest positions in yoga. But even in the low position, if somebody is on the path, then he will eventually, if he stays on the path, will eventually come to Yoga Ruda, or the highest position. So concerning the Eightfold Yoga system, attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulated principles of life and practice of different sitting postures. The Prabhupada's talking here about the sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercises. So our sitting postures are part of yoga. It's one part of Ashtanga yoga. There are 8 parts, and it's the very, very beginning, the first part. And if you go to any yoga studios, the most they get to is maybe the second part, which is pranayama. But they usually just do exercises. And those exercises are really good for you. They're very healthy, and they also help to control the mind. But that is nothing to do with spiritual life. That's just the very beginning. By controlling the mind, by controlling the senses, you can begin spiritual life. But the yoga practice starts with the body. We're all in the bodily concept of life. So it just helps us to get out of the bodily concept of life. Although people in the yoga studio seem to get more in the bodily concept of life because they're just so much into their bodies. They can do all these wonderful postures and it just become more and more bodily conscious. So that, because they don't have any philosophy. And after the exercises are they're considered, let's see, let me just go back. Concerning the Eightfold Yoga system, attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercises, are considered fruitive material activities. So people are doing these things. 99.9% of the people who are doing these things are doing it to achieve something material, not to achieve eternal service to God. It's to become happy by enjoying a more reformed or a more elevated sense gratification, not just gross, more subtle, but it's all on the bodily platform. People do yoga, they get their body fit so they can enjoy sense gratification better. That's what, so it's all such activities are considered fruitive material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he ceases all disturbing mental activities. How many people can do that? Nobody who's doing this yoga can completely control their mind. Arjun says, I believe it would be easier to control the restless wind than control my mind. My mind is all over the place. Anybody who's actually tried to control their mind will see it's very difficult. Anybody who's tried to just chant Hare Krishna and listen to the whole mantra, the whole round, you might be able to listen to a whole mantra, even that's hard, but a whole round, one whole round, you never do it. Your mind wanders. Sometime during that japa, your mind wanders. You keep chanting, and then you realize that you're not even listening to what you're saying. Your mind is on something else. So that's how difficult it is to control the mind. I mean, we try to do it. All we have to do is concentrate on hearing, not even just sitting. We're doing nothing and not letting our mind wander on anything. You know, that's why a lot of these people who try this, they just fall asleep. They look like they're really, really in trance, and they're sleeping. Then you hear them snoring. And then you realize they weren't really in trance. So this meditation comes after. He ceases all disturbing mental activities. A Krishna conscious person, however, is situated from the beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna. And being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna, he is considered to have ceased all material activities. So when you follow this yoga process, it's very complicated, and there's every chance of deviation before you actually come to the point of Krishna consciousness. But if you just start at the point of Krishna consciousness, and you can work from there, you begin serving Krishna. You do devotional service. We certainly have so much service. During Rath Yatra, we had so much service. And generally, it's just a handful of people who are doing all this service. Everyone can be doing this service. I mean, when I say a handful, maybe 20, 30, 40 people who are doing almost everything for the Rath Yatra. And we have a lot more people in our congregation. And some people don't do much service. So we have to do service because that's what you'll be doing. When you go back to Krishna Loka, you'll be performing service to Krishna. Maybe not even directly, maybe through some gopis or through some cowherd boys or through Mother Yashoda, but you'll be doing service. And that's what we have to practice now, doing service. But in the yoga process, you will not find anyone on the Krishna Loka planet doing stretching exercises, trying to control their senses, doing pranayam. This doesn't happen there. This is here in the material world. But you can do the same exact activities here in this material world now as you will do when you go back to the spiritual world. making garlands. You can certainly make garlands for Krishna. We have so many garlands we need made. There are so many things. So we have to try to engage in Krishna's service. We don't have to go through this process. This is a chapter because this chapter is for everyone, where people are on different rings of the ladder. Some people are in the very beginning, so do this hatha yoga, practice this. But I find by people doing hatha yoga, most people just get more on the bodily concept. When your body feels really good, you want to use it to enjoy. And it's unfortunate because we have that mentality. So we can get our body feeling really good. We can get our body in good shape so that we can give more enjoyment to Krishna. We can do more service to Krishna. So this is what we have to do. We don't have to know all of these other processes. Krishna gives them because there are people who want to know them. But he ultimately brings them from one thing to another to finally comes to Bhakti Yoga, which at the end of this chapter, in the last verse of this chapter, says that this is the highest. Bhakti Yoga is the highest of all these different yoga processes. And some people are very interested in all the details. But you don't even have to know the details. All you have to know is Krishna, Radharani, the gopis, Mother Jashoda, Nanda Maharaj, coward boys. I mean, we have to know what it's like in the spiritual world, and we have to be thinking about that. Prabhupada has spent so much time and energy writing all of these books, not making them up, translating them, or giving a summary of them. You know, the Krishna book, it's a summary of the 10th canto. But by reading it, it's all different things about Krishna. Krishna's given us so many opportunities to think of him in so many ways. All these wonderful pastimes he's performed are there, so we have something to think about. It's not just doing them because he's doing them for fun, but simultaneously he's doing them to help us to get out of this material world. So that's a meditation, thinking of Krishna's pastimes, thinking of Krishna's form, thinking of Krishna's personality, thinking of Krishna's paraphernalia. Anything to do with Krishna is not different from Krishna. So if you're meditating on any of these things, you're meditating on Krishna, and you're in the spiritual world. Now, you may not be in the spiritual world permanently, depend upon if you never stop thinking of him. But at least at that time, that's spiritual consciousness. It's not mundane material consciousness. Even Krishna, some people are upset with Krishna book because there's so much violence in it. But the violence is all about Krishna. It's not violence. He's killing demons. You hear about it. It's purifying. It's wonderful to see, but there's some, goody two-shoes who don't want their children to hear anything bad. But yet, anywhere in the world, you hear all these horrible things. These are wonderful stories because Krishna is always victorious, and he will always be victorious because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone trying to fight him, it's just his external energy. He's just using this, and he's in control of the external energy. So it is some spirit soul who is in some illusion purposely, so he can fight with Krishna, and Krishna defeats him. These topics are completely 10% spiritual, and if we can remember them, we are on the spiritual platform. So I'm going to read the verse again, and I hope somebody has a question. For one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Because this is one verse, we may go on to the next. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes. I have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that no, we should be serving like Mother Yashoda. We may be serving in spiritual world like Mother Yashoda or Cowherd Boys or Nanda Maharaj. So I was thinking while you spoke that at the time of an initiation, when your Srila Gurudev gives you a name, is that an indication of your spiritual identity, or it has nothing to do with that?
It's not really an indication of your eternal occupation or your eternal, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Citadea, but that wasn't exactly the word I was looking for. But no. As a matter of fact, there are some gurus who tell you what your, at initiation, what your eternal relationship is with Krishna or with Ramachandra, whatever. But those, at least as far as the line we're in, are completely bogus. That shouldn't be done. So I don't think they're going to give you any hints. I mean, you're a servant of Nanda Gopal, so Nanda Maharaj. So, I mean, we're all serving all the devotees when you're serving Krishna. So I don't think it has any, it could, but I don't think it does. I can tell you privately what you.
Thank you for saying that online, that you're going to tell me privately.
Well, you know as well as I do, I have no idea who any of us are in our eternal occupations, eternal positions. But I think the name has something. I don't think it's just random, but I don't think that's I don't think, I could be wrong. Krishna may make that arrangement. I don't know who I am then. Heard different explanations for my name. Pyari Mohan Das, I'm a servant. Mohan is the attractor of. Pyari is somebody so lovable. So I'm a servant of Krishna who is so lovable, he's attracting everyone. That was one explanation. Another one is Pyari is the name for Radharani, and Mohan is the attractor of. I'm attracting. I'm not sure if I'm a servant of Krishna who's attracting Radharani or Radharani who's attracting Krishna. I don't know, but we're all servants of Krishna, no matter what your position is or what your name is, and even what your eternal occupation or your eternal siddhanta is. Anyone have any other questions? Anybody else want to know who they are in the next life in this spiritual world? How many people here are actually listening?
I'm listening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read the next verse. This is text 4. Yadahi nindriyarateshu nakar masvanu sajate sava sankalpa sannyasi yogaru das tadochate. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification nor in fruitive activities. Param drishtva nivartate. By experiencing a higher taste, you can give up the lower taste. So lots of times these other forms of yoga, you're not really getting much of a higher taste. They're also very, very austere. But in Krishna consciousness, in Bhakti Yoga, when you're serving Krishna, you actually get a higher taste. When you surrender, I mean, this example we have here, we just had Rath Yatra and many devotees surrendered a lot. They did so much service. When you do that, at least when I do that, as from what I can remember when I used to do that, you feel really ecstatic. When you really surrender to Krishna, you feel ecstatic. You get a higher taste. So you don't want this lower taste. You don't even want to think about it. If it comes to your mind, you're disgusted by it. When you're actually engaged in a high and getting a higher taste by surrendering to Krishna or surrendering to Lord Jagannath, which is the same, but we happen to have the Rath Yatra recently, and a lot of people really surrendered. I also see it as you have an opportunity to really surrender on Rath Yatra, or to not surrender so much, or not to surrender at all. You can do whatever. You have that choice, I guess, all the time. But at Rath Yatra, it's intense because if you're willing to, you'll get put into so many different types of service, and you'll be engaged more than you can even deal with it in some cases. So when a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. So by achieving a higher taste, you give up the lower taste. You know, you want to get something out of a child's hands, they got something, give them an ice cream cone, you know. They could give up whatever else they had and they take that. So they get a higher taste. Of course, those are both sense gratificatory things, but one sense gratification is higher than the other. But when you're engaged in spiritual service to Krishna, there's no material sense gratification that compares to it. There's just nothing. So otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. Prabhupada says you can't live for a moment without engaging, without doing something. He says that the soul is active. The soul is active by nature. So the soul has to act. So even if the body isn't acting, the mind is still acting. So you have to act. So you don't have a choice. If you're not going to act for Krishna, you're going to act for Maya. That's the only choice you have. There's nobody in between. That's our choice. So otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. So extended selfish activities are things that I'm magnanimously doing for my family so that they can enjoy sense gratification, or things that I'm magnanimously doing for my country so my country can be happy. That's also extended selfishness. It's better than just thinking of me. There are some people who just think of me as the body. They don't even care for their wife. They don't care for their children. They don't care for anyone. It sounds so horrible. Most people can't think there are people like that, but there are some people like that. Not many, fortunately, compared to all the people there are. But there's more or less, everyone is selfish, and to greater or lesser extents, they're thinking of themselves first, and they're thinking of themselves as their body. When Prabhupada, no, I don't think he was being massaged at the time, but Prabhupada, one devotee told Prabhupada, his name is Atreya Rishi. I used to know him, probably didn't really know me, but he's from New York, so I've seen him a lot. But he once asked, he told Srila Prabhupada that he's Srila Prabhupada, like he revealed his heart to Prabhupada. And he told Prabhupada that he's selfish. He said, I'm so selfish, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, it's okay to be selfish if you know who your real self is. So when we're selfish, thinking with a body, that's the problem. But if we're selfish, thinking I'm a spirit soul and eternal servant of Krishna, and I want what's best for me, that's fine. That's real selfishness, and that's okay. What's best for you is Krishna consciousness, and to give Krishna consciousness to others. That's the best thing for you. So without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. There's no question about it. There is no other choice. It's Krishna or Maya. You don't have, there's nothing. It's nothing in between. There is no other choice. It's not like you can have Krishna, Maya, or something little of each. I mean, we're trying to do a little, we are doing a little of each. We're trying to be Krishna conscious, but we're also trying to enjoy sense gratification. So it's kind of like we're starting a fire with Krishna consciousness, and then we're putting water on it. And we keep doing that. And hopefully the fire doesn't completely die out. Just get it going a little bit more. So really, really poor way of starting a fire, to just keep pouring water on it. But as long as you keep putting some more fuel on the fire, some more Krishna hearing and chanting, then the fire will keep going. So, but a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. Srila Prabhupada did everything for Krishna, everything. I just sent something out to a few devotees today. Some of you may have seen it, maybe not from me, but just seen it. Whereas this one devotee, it was Janmashtami, and they have the regular rice, dal, and chapatis. So even when he said that, that was an old Janmashtami, because in the beginning, we never followed Ekadasi for Janmashtami or for any holidays. But then later we started following. Actually, after Prabhupada left, I think that's when we started following. But in any case, instead of that, they made pizza and some other things, and they sold it. And he was happy they did that. They made some money for the temple. And then Prabhupada was having darshan. Darshan is where he's in a room, and a lot of people and anybody pretty much can come in the room. And sometimes they'll chant, sometimes he'll talk, sometimes there's questions. So there was questions. And one Indian man who he was always critical of things, he raised his hand and he says, Prashadam is meant to be free. You should not sell Prashadam. Why are they selling Prashadam? So Prabhupada thought for a moment, and the devotee was like really, really disturbed that he did such a bad thing because they sold the Prashadam. And Prabhupada said, because if they didn't sell the Prashadam, you would not give anything. So that's why they sell Prashadam. So you can give something to Krishna. Imagine being that Indian, because if they didn't sell Prashadam, you would not give anything. And I'm positive Prabhupada knew what he's talking about, because Krishna tells him, what to say. And of course, the person didn't say anything after that. So, but that was nice. Because if they didn't sell Prashadam, you wouldn't give anything. I just like Prabhupada is so surrendered to Krishna, so in touch with Krishna. Krishna's directly telling him what to say. Even in the books, he says, I have not written these. Krishna has written these books. And he's not saying it for any reason other than it's true. Krishna wrote these books. He would read these books. He would relish these books. Because Krishna wrote them. So somebody who is fully Krishna conscious, he is completely happy all the time. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities, but a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. So one who has no such realization. So some people must mechanically do the hatha yoga, do the pranayama. You mechanically do these things to try to control your senses. But someone can start automatically, which is what Srila Prabhupada has started, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He set up this organization. It's all over the world for anyone who wants to be Krishna conscious can take advantage of these temples and learn about Krishna consciousness. Get to the highest rung of yoga immediately, not having to go from all the way from the bottom one at a time up the ladder. You can just start at the top. And depending on your surrender, you can go, you can become fully Krishna conscious or somewhat Krishna conscious, but it's never a loss. No matter what you get to, you always will have that. Even if you have to take another birth, you'll start there. I know no one wants to take another birth. I'm assuming no one wants to take another birth. I certainly don't want to take another birth, but I also more practical. I may have to take a birth. It's not up to me. I just do what I'm willing to do. I can always surrender more, but I'm doing what I'm willing to do. I wish I was willing to do more, but I'm not. So I do as much as I can. So whether I take birth again or I don't, it's up to Krishna. But at least whatever I achieved in this lifetime will stay with me. And in my next lifetime, I will begin where I left off. As a temple president of ISKCON of Connecticut. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it means, begin where you left off. But spiritually, whatever platform I got to, that's where I'm going to begin again. So there's never any loss. So you just got to keep putting more money in that spiritual bank account. You have to keep doing service, to keep chanting Hare Krishna. The one who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. So we're not following this. We even say so many times that it's this Krishna consciousness is not mechanical. It's not mechanical at all, because you have two people doing the same exact thing mechanically, and one is making so much more progress than the other because he's thinking of Krishna, thinking of Prabhupada, thinking of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, thinking of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, thinking of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thinking of Lord Nityananda. And he's doing his service in that attitude. And the other person's thinking of, maybe even thinking of sense gratification while they're doing service. So whatever the case may be, they're both doing service, but one is Krishna conscious and the other is not, but it will get purified by engaging in devotional service. The more we can do, the more we'll be purified. But it's an internal thing. It's not just an external thing. Externally, someone is offering arti. Prabhupada gave this example, worshiping Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. And he can be thinking of nonsense. And Prabhupada was mentioning Krishna Balaram, like white marble and black marble. And the floor in the Vrindavan temple is also white marble and black marble. And somebody who's cleaning the floor, but he's thinking of Krishna Balaram. He's making more advancement than the person doing arti. So it's not even the position that one is in. It's not like one position is higher that you can make, you get more points, you get more credit, you get more in your bank account by doing one service than the other. It's all absolute. It's not different. And whatever the service may be, the amount of points you get, the amount of credits you get is determined by how much you're surrendered to that service, how much you're trying, not even first surrender to it even externally. That's one thing. That's a great thing. that I'm really concentrating very much on how to do this service nicely. That's Krishna consciousness. Or if it's something that's even mechanical that doesn't take any real concentration, then think of Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna while you're doing the service. So we can surrender more and more with exactly the same amount of service that we're doing. So it's because the surrender is internal. It's not mechanical. It's not like you do this and you go to the next stage. You do this and you get purified to the more or less to how much you're actually thinking about Krishna when you're doing it, how much you're trying to please Krishna. It's like in the very beginning of the class where Prabhupada says, that this is more or less, this is exercise, it's external. But someone can, I said 99.9% of the people are in this category, but there may be somebody who really wants to know the absolute truth and is just trying different things to get to that point. But they're sincerely, they don't want sense gratification. They actually had some realizations how they're not the body. They're not interested in this. I don't know anyone like this, but I'm saying it's possible that someone can do these same yoga activities, but it could be not done materially for fruitive activities or for sense gratification. So it depends on the person. Someone could be just interested in spiritual life and trying different things because they don't know. And if they are, Krishna will direct them. Krishna will direct them to the devotees. And the devotees will direct them to Krishna. So, it depends on how sincere one is. But I can pretty much guarantee practically everybody who's at these yoga studios, their goal is not Krishna or the absolute truth, or they want to just perfect their life and give up sense gratification and fruitive activities. Pretty much nobody is like that in these yoga studios. They want to enjoy sense gratification, but they want to be healthy and happy so they can enjoy it. And they perform some austerities, and they may be attracted to vegetarianism. So they may be good candidates to become devotees. But if they don't get to the point of becoming a devotee, just another waste of time, not any different than the guy who's going out to the gym lifting weights and getting his body looking good and looking at himself in the mirror, looking at his biceps. I have to get him a little bit bigger, but they're not too bad. Anyway, so all of our service can be dovetailed. Prabhupada used that word a lot, dovetail. Dovetail in Krishna service. Whatever you do, you can dovetail it for Krishna. He says, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer and give away, do as an offering unto me. So everything we do should be done as an offering to Krishna. And we can do it. Devotees in the beginning, they wanted donuts. So Prabhupada said we can make donuts for Krishna. We call them donuts. Because if you look at the spelling, English is a terrible language. The spelling is donut. It's a donut. But somehow it gets to be donut. But we can make them for Krishna. So we dovetail. We really want donuts. So Prabhupada's so kind, you can offer them to Krishna, then you can have them. Okay, so I'm going to end here. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So you mentioned that we can always aspire to surrender more while we are serving. So I really love that point. So I had a question like, what are the symptoms for like a self-reflection that are we surrendering more? Like, mind may say that, yes, I'm surrendering, but I don't know. So what are the symptoms of a devotee who is surrendering more?
Boy, that's a good question. Because lots of times you think you're not. I'm not doing anything. Everyone else is doing service. But you might be surrendering that way, or you might not be doing anything and everyone else is doing service. So how do you know if you're surrendering more? Well, you're just trying really hard. Okay, I can say one thing. It's hard, very hard, practically in the stages we're out at, to always think of Krishna. So devotional service, ahaitukiya pratyata, means uninterrupted, unmotivated. So we may be motivated because we want to enjoy, and I know mundane enjoyment doesn't make me happy, so I'll surrender to Krishna so I can enjoy spiritual. So forget about the motivation, but uninterrupted, I can work at least on my uninterrupted service. So I should be trying all the time to do some service for Krishna, do some service for the devotees. If I'm trying like that, at least I may still be motivated, materially motivated, because that's very hard to just do it, not be materially motivated, other than artificially doing it. Well, I am not motivated materially. I am only motivated to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Person. You can say whatever you want, but generally we do have material motivations. So, but at least I can work on no interruption. I start serving and I don't stop. So that's one thing we can do. And see how much service am I doing. And then if we see that our consciousness is not good, take shelter of chanting, take shelter of praying. There's 9 processes: hearing, chanting, remembering, so we can do these things. And that's when you can't physically do something, you could do some of these things. But stay fully engaged. When Prabhupada was here, I don't know about everyone else, but I think I was pretty much fully engaged. And I think everyone else was, and I thought everyone else was. It's only years later I'm finding that not everyone was, but most of the devotees were really surrendered. Really surrendered. It didn't, even it was giving up your sleep. Not sleeping as much as you should be sleeping. But because you don't have time, you got too much to do. But that was when Prabhupada was here, and somehow when Prabhupada was here, devotees can do miracles. They can do so much more. So I would say to have uninterrupted service. And I'd also say, as long as I'm doing that, as long as I'm just always serving and not just hearing japa, trying to hear the japa. In other words, work at it, put some effort into all your activities. And then I wouldn't even think about how am I doing if I'm making advancement. I don't think that should be something we have to think about. That's up to Krishna. He takes care of that. I just have to keep trying. So I don't think that should be so much a thought. How much progress am I making? I remember not thinking about it and doing all that. And then one time, I remember chanting japa. Okay, and then I remembered how I used to chant when I first started chanting japa. And this was maybe a year later. And I remembered that my mind did not stop for a moment. When I first started chanting japa, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, my mind is going wild and I could not do anything. And after about a year, I noticed my mind was much calmer. So Krishna let me have that vision, that sight, but I wasn't looking to try to see how am I doing. I don't remember doing that. I don't think we have to worry about, we have to worry about just staying engaged, making the effort, and how much progress I'm making. Krishna is keeping score. I don't have to worry about it. It's not like at an exam on a school where I got to know how I'm doing. It doesn't matter how I do. It really doesn't matter because I'm doing what I can or what I'm willing to do. And the results are up to Krishna. They're not up to me. But I have to have faith that by doing this, I am making progress. I may not see it, but I am making progress. The process works. If I apply myself to it, it will work. So try to apply yourself and not try to figure out if you're making progress or not. Just know you are. It's imperceptible. It's like these little kids, when you're with them every day, if you're a parent, it doesn't seem like they're growing, they're getting bigger, but if you didn't see them in 2 years, it's like, wow, they got so big. It's imperceptible. So our spiritual progress may not be so perceptible, and it doesn't matter. And we shouldn't be interested in our progress. We should be interested in pleasing Krishna. If Krishna is pleased, then we can pray and we can try. I'm hoping this is pleasing you. If you have another thing that may please you more and you want me to do that, I'm perfectly willing to do it. We shouldn't be concerned with ourselves. We should be concerned with Krishna.
Like when Jayananda was asked.
Oh, here, Jiva, say it loud.
Well, Jayananda was asked how he made so much spiritual progress, how to advance in spiritual life. He said he was too busy to think about it. That's what he said. But I remember hearing Prabhupada. Also, once I had a dream and I heard the words Bhakti Pareshana Bhava. And I didn't know what it meant, so I looked it up. And it's actually from a verse in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada quotes it. And it's in regards to how do you know if you're making advancement? How can you tell? And the translation to the verse is devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. How do you know if you're hungry, you're not hungry?
How do you know if you're full?
If you're full, yeah. How do you know if you're full? How do you know you're making detachment? If you feel, see, I've become a little more detached, and you have some spiritual feeling for Krishna, and your devotion is increasing. Maybe we can't always sense that so much.
All of them, you can't necessarily sense in my
Mother
detached.
Jiva, what is the third one? I know detachment and disinterest in material things. And what is the third one?
Devotion and direct experience of the Supreme Lord.
Oh.
But mostly he emphasized the detachment. The more we become attached to Krishna, naturally you become detached from the material world. It's meant to be a natural process. Just like when you eat, you naturally become unhungry.
Thank you.
But I like Jayananda's mood. Too busy to think about it. Just absorbed it. He was so focused on trying to please Prabhupada and Krishna.
I think he was mainly trying to please Prabhupada.
Yeah, but Krishna's automatic.
Right, and if you please Prabhupada, you're pleasing Krishna.
Yeah. So focused on getting the work done for like Rath Yatra. He had sores on his body, he had leukemia, and he hid it so nobody would stop him from continuing his service. It's very high level, detached from his bodily condition. He's an ISKCON saint.
And he was very, very humble, very humble. I mean, genuinely humble.
Because who was it who said that he saw him? He saw his sores and he said, Jayananda, you have to go to a doctor. And he said, not till Rath Yatra's over. You promise me you won't say anything till Rath Yatra's over. He said, okay, as long as you go.
Okay, well, we've gone over. We almost always go over. So we'll end here to offer our obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees.
Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Namo Namah.
Koti Vaishnavanda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. His Grace Pyari Mohan Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna.